Welcome to the Lift Every Voice podcast, where we explore books by contemplative writers of color. I'm Christine Valters Paintner.
And I'm Claudia Love Mair. We are joined each month by the author of our book club selection. Together, we explore how increasing our diversity of perspectives on contemplative practice can enrich our experience of the Christian mystical tradition.
We encourage you to join us by reading the book, listening to the conversations, and engaging with the reflection questions on our website at abbeyofthearts.com. Everyone to our Lift Every Voice book club. I am so delighted to be joined again, as usual, by my co-host, Claudia Love Mair. And we have a returning guest, Dr. Patrick Saint-Jean. Patrick was on once before with his beautiful book, The Spiritual Work of Racial Justice, a month of meditations with Ignatius of Loyola. And we're going to continue deepening into Ignatian spirituality with the spirituality of transformation, joy, and justice, the Ignatian Way for everyone. So just to say, Patrick is a psychoanalyst by training and a passionate practitioner of Ignatian spirituality. He was born in Haiti, but he lives now in the US, and he's a professor at University of San Francisco in the Department of Psychology. He's also a spiritual director and a speaker. So welcome back, Patrick. It's wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you very, very much, Christine. Thank you very much, Claudia, for bringing me back. So again, I think the last time I say that here, this is my house. I love this podcast and I follow you so closely. And I'm very, very humble. That's been the last time I did not put the house on fire. You bring me back. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Patrick.
Patrick, could you tell us a little of who Ignatius of Loyola is and how he came to create the Examen?
First, I would say Ignatius of Loyola really, it's someone just like us. First, it's a human, but coming, of course, with his own ways. He's from 1491, born as Inigo Lopez de Añejo de Loyola, pretty much like from Spain, from the Basque country back then, which is right now part of Spain. And he really start living his life. He lost his mother very early an age. Then from 1506, he began his military services. That's where he would really find his way on the castle. Then by 1517, he became a knight on the service. As in military services, there was a conflict, and within the castle of Loyola, pretty much a Basque country, in the French army. And unfortunately, that they could not find a common ground within the diplomacy, then the French decided they would come over. But the army from the castle were very, very tired. They did not want to go to war and they did not want to do anything. When they heard that the French was coming over, they said, you know what, we're going to give up, we surrender, we put down everything, let them come over. And Ignatius himself, as he was quite stubborn, if you will. Maybe if you get close to the Jesuit, that might say something to you, right? You can understand why the Jesuits are so stubborn like that. They get it from their spiritual father, the DNA. It was quite stubborn. And effectively in 1521, make a long story short, his commander said they were not gonna go. He said, yes, we're gonna go. And then you go on the top of the small hills where they're gonna hide, get ready, put an ambush, waiting for the French to come over the small mountains of Pamplona. And effectively, according to the late John Padberg's an eminent Jesuit from that was recently from St. Louis University, said that perhaps only about 15 of the French guys who just came over and then they wrapped out the small light portions of what Ignatius brought with him on the mountains to counterattack the French that was coming down. And that's how Ignatius really like received a bullet on his leg that completely, excruciatingly shatter his dream, his stubbornness, his determinations, his visions, and so on and so forth. That's pretty much just what changed Ignatius' life from 21 to all the way when he died in 1622, in 1556. Ignatius of Loyola would become really like someone who today give us what we have in the Christian church, in the church, this legacy where we can come to reflect and find God, bring us closer to God, but through his own personal experience as he was recuperating after his injury from Pamplona mountain, as he was just sitting down on the bed thinking, okay, now what is of me? What does God want of me? Who am I? Who can I become? What is life and what can move me closer to God? This experience forced him to go deeper within himself. Then from himself, he could get out to see the world in the new eyes. That's how he come fast forward and then founded the Society of Jesus with some other 12 companions in 1540. And today is what we have as the Jesuits around the world, is the order of like all men who is really working for God's kingdom. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it was just like us, but a little bit like crazier than us, and would dare to even dream some things out of nothings, from the wounds of life, from the wounds of stubbornness, from the wounds of uncertainty, from the wounds of lack of self, which completely has transformed and changed him to a different self for others.
Wow, that's amazing. And personally, I think a little crazy is way underrated in this society.
I'm so happy to hear that Claudia will say that. That means I'm not truly gonna get in trouble. That means you get in trouble yourself.
I love it. I love it. Well, you write that Ignatius believed God is the source of all freedom, allowing us to be the truest version of ourselves, which sounds like what was opened up for him through this wounding experience. So, can you describe more about what this freedom was like and how does it feel to embody it?
Thank you very much, Christian. That's a very, very good questions, because I think this is one of the elements that is at the heart of the spiritual exercises. By the way, the spiritual exercises is a manual that Ignatius himself, is a journal. Ignatius himself kept writing as he was recuperating, as he was going through this period of transformations from his wounds to the thinking of, can he build some things? And that's how his journal, pretty much writing again and again. But the majority of him was a spiritual director, as he was also doing some period of like a time of prayer in Manresa. By the way, that's when really like his life pretty much was like completely like changing. And this sense of freedom that Ignatius took from the exercises is pretty much an experience of, where am I right now? Do I have any things that can pull me back from paying attention to what God is asking of me, and where God is want me, and who God want me to be in the face of all that's going on. In other words, In fact, Ignatius even like call about this notion of like attachment and detachment, attachment disorder. What for Ignatians, those type of like attachments, is there is anything that's pulling me away from God, from the divine. If there is perhaps sometime in our life, interestingly enough, as right now, I'm so happy we are like all of us we like would then lift every word and saying this wonderful podcast. Perhaps sometimes something can even like pull us out away, we cannot lift our voices. Might be our wives, our husband, our children, my beautiful car, my wonderful house, and in knowing exactly where is God want me to go now. We all become somehow those missionaries for God, missionaries in actions. God is asking me to do some things, to go somewhere. But am I free enough to let the spirit that is speaking to me from the divine to move on? Am I free enough to even pay attention to listen to the voice of Christ?
Yeah.
This is why I mentioned here in this book about the sense of like freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom, and in Ignatius and the exercises mentioned those two elements of freedom. We have to be able to discern and to find like freedom from and freedom to. And once we balance here, can I move from freedom from all of those attachments to freedom to move to do God's works? Can I move from freedom from what I've been holding on? It might be, sort of like addictions, might be some sort of like some superficial emotional like connectiveness, if you will. Am I free enough to say, this I have received it from God? I'm willing to turn it away to God and move toward what God is asking for me in the next early on. Those two elements are very, very important here for the exercise. Freedom from what is holding me back. Freedom to what God is asking of me.
Yeah. I thank you for that distinction. And it's really beautiful, I think, in light of what you were sharing about Ignatius's own journey with his wounding, because it was, I think for me, what it reveals is that, we can have all kinds of attachments to things and all kinds of wounds that we're carrying. And there's still always the possibility that that freedom will open us up in a way that we weren't expecting. Do you know what I mean? I think for Ignatius, that was, yeah, like he wasn't at all thinking his life was going to go in that direction. And so anyway, there's just something very, there's something very humbling and comforting about Ignatius's story, because he is so kind of full of himself at the start of it.
Right. So happy. Strike two. You say Christine and you say Claudia. That's when I'm out from this game. Nobody right now. I wash my hands. But no, you're right. You're right. I think you get it right and target. One thing you mentioned earlier, I think one of the things you mentioned, that's so key in all of this is about this notion of possibility.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't mention, as Ignatius was recuperating, he found himself on the bed before all the wounds on Pamplona, the bullet in Pamplona. Ignatius was all about himself. Like you mentioned Christine. I don't want to say this word, but I'm very, very happy the listeners, they have heard you very loud and clear. Ignatius, he was always well dressed. You can imagine back in the 1500, those guys from the castle, they had money and everything, all his money spending on his well dressed, take care of himself, and then they would read all of those books about like the story of like chevaliers and everything and so on and so forth. All that's to make himself handsome for the women.
Yeah.
he was somehow, I like these Spanish words. I'm still looking to see even an Italian one. Oh, Portuguese doesn't do good justice about it. The way the Spanish say that, a mujeriego, that was Ignatius.
Yeah.
And as he was in the bed recuperating after the bullet, he couldn't find his book to read. And he asked Bertrand, his brother, one of his brother was Bertrand, and his wife, Maria Magdalena, was Bertrand's wife as he was recuperating. And he asked her, please, can you find any things for me in the house to read? Because he used to like reading novels. Imagine all those kind of like wild stories and everything. How can I conquer the next beautiful girls in the town? And how can I really buy the best outfit to make me the most handsome guy ever? And then you keep imagining, as his the sister-in-law was looking for book, she could not find any other books for him other than the Life of Christ by Ludwig de Saxony and the Bible and the Life of Jesus. Those are the three books that was available to him. Then as he was recuperating, he ended up, just like reading this book over and over and over from the life of the saints. He read about the story of Saint Dominic and Saint Francis,
Mhm.
how they founded the Dominican and the Franciscan. And that from there, he said, you know why? The questions like, if Dominic could do it, if Francis could do it, I think I can do it.
Mhm. Yeah.
He could dare to go from his limitations, from how many days am I going to get out of here? Do I have enough money? Do I have enough contact? I know nothing's in Rome. I was in military. I don't know how to speak. I don't have any theology. It was not a theology. It was this capacity to see possibility
Yeah.
out
That's
of nothing. I think that's what the strength. First, to going back a little bit, repeating myself a little bit. I'm so sorry. From the first questions, it was having the possibility. Okay, I can even imagine to detach from my old Ignatius, Inigo Lopez,
Mhm.
to right now dream some things for Ignatius of Loyola.
Yeah.
That's what pretty much where we are today.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. I love it. Mhm.
Okay, Patrick, imagine that I'm in the bookstore, just a regular person, and I see your book because the color is yellow, and I love the color yellow. And you talk about transformation and joy and justice. And I'm like, hey, sign me up for that. But I open it up, I go to the first chapter, and right away you use the word sin, a word that a lot of people would find off-putting. And let's just say I am that person that finds the word sin off-putting. And I close the book. Um, what would you tell me if we were to have a conversation after that? And I said, well, I mean, what does sin mean to you? But here's the thing, Patrick. You can't just say it means missing the mark. You have to elaborate. What is sin?
I'm so happy you finally you go in and you open the book and you close it out again, Claudia. Thank you very much. But again, I think I purposely chose to start with these specific one. First, for many, many reasons. Number one, as a Catholic, this is one of the things we do when we go to mass, as we greet and everything, but we open our heart, we really engage and this element of who we are as fragile but yet loved by God. We remember that, okay, you know what, there is something perhaps I might have done that I'm aware of it and I'm not proud of it, or perhaps I'm not even aware of it. It's happened. Then can that define me? Then when I come to the church, in fact, I'm sorry if I use this image, that's just to elaborate on this. When I come to the church, the first thing I say, Kyrie eleison, Lord, have mercy. Because I remember the name of the divine is mercy. And then with how I come as a fragile, I do nothing else. I just address to the divine and remind him, I'm here. Do what you want with me because I have nothing else, nowhere else to go. It's just to you. I did not, he didn't remind me that, no matter what happened, you're way much more than what had happened to you, than what you have done. This is a way, and somehow we might, yes, on the exercises, in fact, in the first week, Ignatius was very, very clear about that. We are all sinners because we are human. But we are blessed, beloved sinners. We are all loved by God. That's been sin does not define us. It's unfortunate in Christianity, mostly in the Christianity, we have this obsession about like saints and sin. All of us, I call each other like sinners and so on and so forth. In fact, that has come into a certain point. You can even see the kind of like the label. We are labeling each other. We come kind of like a judge. We are judging each other. And that's now how God look at us. There is a way, as I mentioned, we like in the books, kind of like, this bullseye, is a target. How we like fixing toward the target. Our target as human, we're all going to God. And God's name is mercy. Therefore, when I go, the first thing I do as someone who has done something that doesn't define me, yet as a fragile, I call on the name of the one who really knows exactly, open his arm to receive me, his mercy. And here I am. And therefore he responded, I hear you, I love you, that does not define you. And I always open my arm for you. Welcome home.
I wish, and it's so beautiful that you talked about our obsession with sin and who the sinner is. I just want to tell you very briefly that I was in a Catholic bookstore one day, and I was behind a man who was gay, and it was just kind of obvious. I was right behind him, so he gets to the cashier, and the cashier tells him that how he's living is against God. And the poor man was just trying to buy a birthday gift for his friend. And after he left the store, I'm sure hurt and angry, because I was. I said to him, if you could only say one thing to that man, what would it be? And he said it would be that what he's doing is against God. And I said, if I had one shot, I would just tell him how much God loves him. And I mean, this was such a simple exchange. Here's my stuff. Let me pay for it. Let me go on my way. And it just really hurt me, After what you said, I would pick your book up again. I would finish reading.
Claudia, I'm so happy. Wow, that was a good sales pitch.
You nailed it. You nailed it. But
again, the whole point of it, I think, is the way we are like so pious, is how we've been shaped in what has been brought to us. But also, as a clinicians, means a licensed therapist, sometimes I'm even wondering how much are we engaged in a relationship with God by fear? If it's fear, it's what has been activating us to engage with each other, we'll always internally being seeing the other as a threat. Therefore, I need to protect myself against them. By protecting myself against, I need to judge you. I am good, you're bad. But God is way, Claudia, God is so busy loving us to judge us. God is so busy having mercy on us. In fact, his name is mercy, to condemn us. God doesn't have time to punish us. The notion, I think we need as a Christians who engage in these works of healing, we need to look at each other. And I can see in your eyes the name of God who is mercy. And he's looking at me. He said, I love you for who you are as you are. We are yet for whatever we have done, but there is no one on earth. There is no one on earth that is really like more than what they have done or what happened to us. We are way less, and God is always much more than that. And God is really right now is working so hard to always come in to us. God does not have time to call us by, to name, to bully us, to punish us. Because his name is mercy.
I think that's your next book, Patrick. God's name is mercy. Jesus did not come to kick our ass. That's it.
You say, Claudia, I think people will hear that, right? I'm gonna be on the way signing it, and then my agent Claudia gonna be on the way.
Cheers to that.
Well, kind of as an extension of that, I want to talk a little bit about Jesus, because you talk about so beautifully in your book about how Jesus really lived in solidarity with the people who were on the margins, the people who were on the edges. And, he touched people who were unclean. He broke the taboos by speaking to women, and so how do we reclaim this beautiful sense of solidarity, and especially in a world that feels so divided? And I feel like this also connects to the idea of communal sin, which I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about. So maybe you could just sort of expand that communal sin, and then how does Jesus lead us into a relationship with the other, and into, especially, it's not like a solidarity. I think that word, I really love that word in particular. Would love to hear a little bit more about that in our times right now. It feels so divided.
Yes, and thank you very much, Christine. I think it's unfortunate to see what happened more than 2,000 years ago in Calvary. We come, we create a plot, and we put Christ on the cross because we could not find a common ground to recognize this guy was an innocent.
Yeah.
One of the major points that put Christ on the cross was our own divisions, to find a common ground, a lack of concessions. That's where we are today. Just since what I'm quite about, like this communal sense, for me, is this really like, unfortunately, I call like out like this social conspiracy. We socially like conspired against God's plan, against Christ's plans, which has really like come to bring us together. The sense of togetherness, that's where we meet God. Look at the image of the disciples. Look how he sent them to missions after the resurrection, 2 by 2, and go and with a mandate, do make disciples. And even after the fact, you see, is all around him. He was always, even now, perhaps that's not theologically like really sounded, but just imagine even on the cross, the image we have of the cross. The whole story could have happened that Christ was just by himself.
Yeah.
I don't just imagine that. That could have happened like that. Yet, once more, once again, even from the cross, Christ always accompanied with two people. This sense of community from birth to death, that's really what really lead over. However, today, more than ever, around the world, we have this deep sense of like we need of self is all about me. I do not know you because you do not look like me, you don't speak like me, you don't same color, we don't have the same passport. You're not. However, our passport should be the way we see each other, and I can look at your eyes, I see Christ on you. That's how should be our passport. Are you a human? Can I see Christ on you? As long as I can see Christ on you, you are the citizen of heaven. It's unfortunate what we are going through right now. This is the reason why I think for me, number one is we have to pray. We have to find a way to come together.
Yeah.
Because togetherness is really what happened. Means a short story because it's very quick. I mentioned that in a different book. By the way, I have so many other books, by the way. This is not the only one, but that's what Christine want to talk about, eh? um, I remember I went to Haiti because I was born in Haiti, but I grew up outside of Haiti. I went back to Haiti to visit a friend who was a Claudia. You know how they call those people who help give birth to others? Or you forget?
Midwife?
Okay,
No.
that's good. Christine, you remember what Claudia forgets.
Sorry, I didn't mean
That
to.
She
happens a
was a
lot.
midwife. And then as I go in the village and then wake up in the morning, because we've been friends forever, we keep walking in the village. And all of a sudden I saw about like 8 women running fast and come together. I said, hey, come here. I said, what's going on? What happened? They said, do I say women who is about to give birth? They need you now. I said, what? And then she said, let's go with me. I said, what are you talking about? Me going with you to assist a woman who is giving birth? I'm not you. I said, no, grab me and run. And then once we get in, she said, open the door. She get in. He said, you come in. I said, what are you talking about? Me coming inside? It's a woman. I'm going to go back. I will see you when you're done. I have books to read. I can sit down. Walk. She said, hey, come. She come and she grabbed me. Push. And when we get inside, and I saw a group of women, they knelt together on the ground, and the woman who is about to give birth was in the middle of the circle. And all of them hold hands, and they keep going, breathe, breathe,
Wow.
breathe. And they keep going like that all the way within 3, 4, 5 times. Finally, when they will finally put the baby out, that's when those group of women was able, like right now, to with a release. Now let's bring both together. They hold the baby together. They keep the baby, like you can imagine, they hold hand, all of them together, put the baby on the hand and raise it up 3 times. Carve out an offering to God. Together. This image remain with me and it strike me even up to today. It's more than 10 years. Even up to today, how from nothing, no electricity, no running water, the heat, yet the miracle of those women, what they could have done simply by coming together. They knelt down, they hold hands, and they are breathing with the woman who is giving birth. I think today we have a deep sense of commitment. We have to do some things. This is in fact what Ignatius was already imagined, that in the society of Jesus, we call each other companion. That's how we are on a company, because we know these missions that God has given us. It cannot be possible if we are just doing it by ourselves. Each and every one of us, as God's creature, we have received a mission. We have a vocation. None of us, we are not superior than the other. You're the preacher, you're the priest, you're not superior than your people who are on the pews. We all receive a specific call to contribute some things to the kingdom. And these contributions has and must be done as we come and we hold in together and we raise up the offering that we receive to heaven and we offer it to God. No more divisions, no more injustice, no more blaming on each other, no more calling names. Healing can only and will only be possible and when we come together. When we come together, there is a beautiful song I like about these. I think it's these Christian group actually, which is called, I think is this Protestant group called by Casting Crown, is by Isaac Williams, called Casting Crown. Sometimes I just listen it again and again and again, just like broken together. See, what do you think about when you look at me? Just this line always strike me. If you could have think about, okay, how am I broken? But what is God is thinking about me when you look at me?
Mm.
Yet our brokenness does not define us. Only always when we remember we are broken together and you raise this up as an offering to God and say, that's all I have. Take and receive and give me your love. And that's enough for me.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you for all those wonderful stories. I love that. Mm.
I take every opportunity I can to reference Kendrick Lamar. And this is no different. During the Super Bowl halftime show, and Samuel L. Jackson was Uncle Sam. He mentioned that there was a cheat code to winning in the game of life. And that cheat code essentially is community. Community is the only way we'll survive whatever is next, because it looks like what's next is not going to be good. Community is how we survived chattel slavery, when we had nothing but each other. And community, throughout the experience of chattel slavery, community grew as white people joined to say, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. And the Underground Railroad was created. I truly believe everything you said. I truly believe holding hands in love, that's a cheat code for just about everything. My question, though, the challenge of love. You asked, where do we see brokenness? Well, brokenness is all around us. We ourselves may be broken. And you know this as both a priest and a psychoanalyst. What is the challenge of love when we're broken and when we see brokenness all around us?
Okay, I think, by the way, thank you very much for bringing Kendrick Lamar. I cannot help it. You have started with that, Claudia. That's your fault. But first of all, I think is to remember how he mentioned about this whole notion of like the complexity of who we are as human beings. When you say, I got pain, I got hate, I got shame, all in my DNA. Also, I have love, I have
Yeah.
care, I
Joy.
have justice, I have
Yeah.
joy in my DNA. And that's when I bring all of them together. Again, we go back, in casting crown. What do you think when you look at me? If you look at my pain, my joy, my pain, but we offer that together, that's when Kendrick Lamar say our DNA in itself, and somehow, as Kendrick mentioned, we have to come up, make our DNA be an offering to God for love and justice. And to bring back to your questions, Claudia, what we have done when we look at all of those brokenness in the world, you know, that remind me of James Baldwin. When James Baldwin said, love has never been a popular movement, and no one's ever wanted really to be free.
Mm.
The world is held together, really. It's held together by the love and the passions of every few people. And I added every few people that have the intentions and heart and remind of the vocations is to come together for healing. I think today, more than ever, we have really like a human, a deep spiritual obligations to remind ourselves this will not be possible if we keep going on our own way. Means togetherness is the way. And I am who I am because of you. This is what, when I was in South Africa for some research, one time I think I got a very, very temperature for a short time. I couldn't sleep, and indeed my next colleagues next door, we were both of us like in the program together. Anybody was from South Africa in a different town in Soweto. And then you could have heard me keep moving over there. And then he said, like, I heard him say, like, in the middle of the night, around like 2 o'clock at night, he said, Sawubona. And I just slightly, I could not, because I couldn't sleep. I just responded, Sawubona mwezo, which means in this language in Mutu in South Africa means like Sawubona means like I see you.
Mm.
And Sawubona mwezo, I see you too. Today, when we are looking at each other, when we see things happening with all of those circumstances and situations, who do we see? Can we remind each other, I see you, I see you too? The context of Sawubona, it's really like interconnected with what like the concept of what Archbishop Desmond Tutu mentioned about the notion of like Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Ubuntu is like, I am who I am because of you. Sawubona, Sawubona mwezo. I will never be anything else. Healing can happen until when we say each other, I see you, Sawubona, and Sawubona mwezo. And we are who we are is because of each other. And our boat will not be able to move by itself unless if both of us we are together and then we are roaring, roaring, roaring all the way to the shore. We will get there, but we have to remember we have to row together and row the boat of healing, row the boat of love, row the boat of the other, not as an otherness, but as an other that's helped me to be who I am, because I am not who I am without you.
That's gorgeous. Thank you.
So I just want to say, I think that's a beautiful place to end our conversation for now. I feel like there's a lot more that we could return to at another date. And I really highly recommend this book, The Spirituality of Transformation, Joy, and Justice, The Ignatian Way for Everyone. It makes Ignatian spirituality really accessible, but in a really meaningful, deep, and rich way. So thank you, Patrick, for being back with us once again. We're just delighted to have you.
Always. Thank you.
I'm very, very happy to be back. So happy you bring me back, guys. That means like perhaps there is something we can get here. But again, I would highly remember everyone means there is much more we have together.
Yeah.
And despite everything else, when we look at each other's eyes, remember, we give God's names. God's name is mercy. And we look at each other's eyes, God's call us hope. If God's name is mercy, and we are children of God, and we are hope, hope is reinvented every day. No matter what happened, we all have to remember we are not only disasters, but we are also miracle. And there is much more we can bring together when we come together. Let's hope be the guide that lead us through, and we will get through. And today is one day, and tomorrow will always be better today. Let's move on to get to tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Amen.
In a very quick commercial, I have a very book that's coming out very soon. It's The Fountain of Hope. Very soon, Ignatian's Wisdom to guide the world of injustice. Supposed to be very soon. It was supposed to be out for Lent, but as you know, publishers are never on time. Just watch out for it. Thank you very, very much once again. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Christine.